In this Behind the Case study, we look at a Year 6 project, a science project in Derby, a primary school in Derby, which was part of the Our Future Derby initiative. And this one involved 3 classes, the whole of the year group, who were looking at scientific investigations, specifically looking at identification and genetics, ID. And the brief from the teacher said that they wanted the project to look at complex scientific area that this was, in which many of the children were interested because, as she said, linked to becoming doctors, scientists and biologists. And she said, we'd love the children to be able to meet any employers in this industry and produce something to showcase to parents. The school was using the Cornerstones curriculum materials, and that included, you can see, looking at in the science learning focus, working scientifically, an important learning outcome. And the resources the school was using included perfectly good material, which was, as part of the investigation into inherited characteristics, it gave children the chance to find out about how characteristics like freckles and tongue rolling would be inherited. And we'll come back to tongue rolling, which was what the project focused on. And in the communication with the teachers, bear in mind this program is about building capacity for teachers and within schools for them to be able to develop their own projects. But this explained really what we're about. It's about bringing, as it says here in this email, curriculum learning to life in partnership with local employers. It's not about bringing in a guest speaker or an external organisation to run a classroom session. And it referenced the Step 2 brief that we've just looked at, and in which we're aiming to, as it puts it here in this email, help children prepare for SAT questions in this topic by involving the NHS through a purposeful challenge. And although the classroom tasks might be similar in nature to SAT questions, children would feel they are questions about a real situation, perhaps described by a genetics expert with feedback from them when children have completed the challenge. So we actually involved one of the employer partners, part of the NHS, whose role it is to recruit across the region for the NHS, and in particular trying to promote the idea that there are more than just doctors and nurses working within the NHS. There's a multitude of other professions. And in this very short email with the introduction really to that organisation, it explained that we'll be focusing on identity, making it easier to create links with NHS and healthcare, and it will be running through a period of time. And it actually attached that original brief from the teacher. Although it says the suggestions focus on solving crimes, that's the curriculum materials, we hope we could do something that promotes associated careers in the NHS that children have not considered, and give a couple of examples. So it concludes, I wonder if it's possible to find someone suitable who might help us to shape purposeful challenge for the children, informing them about their job and providing feedback about the children's work. Well, they did exactly that. They put that request out through their network, and they give a time period for people to respond. And people did respond. They have volunteers, champions, who are there to promote the NHS and careers within the NHS. And here we are in an email that's kind of saying to the 2 people who responded what we're trying to do. And it gave an example of how we might, using a BBC link to an article about the ability to roll your tongue, is it an inherited characteristic or not? That's what the clip was talking about. And it talked about the challenge that would be set to the children, which was, use your science knowledge and skills to investigate whether tongue rolling is an inherited characteristic or not, presenting your reports to experts in inheritance at the end of the project. There's a note here saying thanks to the volunteers for being willing to help, and it explained what they were being asked to do. It explained again that it was focusing on genetics and identity, but the emphasis is on creating interest in scientific inquiry. The children will complete an investigation between now and the February half term, knowing that they will be required to explain their findings to guests from the NHS. And the suggestion is that they'd visit one afternoon to meet the children, who would be in small groups, and talk with them about the project. So there's then some of the practicalities about organising a date. And also says that they would be invited to create an informal video greeting on the mobile phone. Either somebody could come in and record that, or they could clearly just do that themselves. It's not a difficult thing to do. So what we're going to now look at is what that looked like. What was the video that was recorded and used as a classroom resource? So this is Amy's video for the students.
Hi, I'm Amy. I'm one of the biomedical scientists here at Derby Pathology. We work with blood, so we process blood samples that are taken in the hospital and in GP surgeries. We run them through our machines and we send the results back out to clinicians and doctors. So I took science at GCSE and at A-level, and from A-levels I went on to study biomedical science at university in Sheffield, where I graduated with my degree and then took some work experience in an NHS lab, and then I had to do some more qualifications to become a biomedical scientist. From there I did a specialist qualification, which meant that I could specialise in haematology and blood transfusion. So in pathology and blood sciences, we receive all of the samples from the hospital and from GPs. They all get processed by our MLAs, our medical laboratory assistants. These guys label up our samples. They then go through and get processed on analyzers, and these are looked after by our associate practitioners. And finally, the results are looked at by our biomedical scientists, who check the results, make sure they're fine, and take appropriate action. I specialise in blood bank, so we get blood together and blood transfusion together for people in the hospital who might need some blood because they're a bit poorly, under weather, and they need topping up. So this is all the blood for the hospital. And in here we have different blood groups that you might know about. And if a patient requires some blood, we can make sure we give them the right blood so that they remain safe, and we can make sure that they get better and hopefully leave the hospital. I understand you're doing a project about identity and genetics, and that's really relevant for my job in blood bank because blood groups are all based on genetics, so you get your blood group depending on what your mum and dad's blood groups are. So it's really, really interesting to me to see what you're going to come up with in your projects. I really look forward to seeing you all and seeing the work you produce and asking you all a few questions.
So as Amy had promised at the end of that clip, she did come in to the school. And she did talk about her job and she answered questions, but primarily what she did was to come in and listen to the children talk about the project, their scientific investigation in which they'd been involved, knowing that Amy would be coming in to quiz them about it and listen to them and give some feedback. Interestingly, when at the end of the project, Amy gave her own feedback, she filled in a survey which was part of the Our Future Derby initiative. But she said, I've completed this survey, sorry it took a week. Thanks again for getting me involved in this project. It's been so interesting for me. Please do not hesitate to get in touch in the future if you think I can be of any assistance to other projects. In other words, she's happy to repeat the experience. The resources that were created did not require her to leave a place of work. In fact, they were enhanced by her being in a place of work. And really what was required for us to come in at the end, not to spend a lot of time in preparation to give a talk, but to see the students, to see the children and to listen to them talk about the work they had done in the classroom. How did it help knowing that Amy was going to come in and talk to you and look at your work as well? What difference did that make?
It will make you want to try harder because you want to impress her.
Don't you want to impress your teacher?
Yeah, I do.
So what's the difference? Why is it different?
Well,
because Amy's very...
Yeah,
She works in a hospital.
she does. Yeah. So why is that
Okay.
different? Why is that different?
Because Mr. Evans is a teacher.
Yes.
And then she's
every day.
a bio...
She's
a
every day
bio-
what?
She works
she's
in the
every-
hospital
Yeah.
every day.
Like
Okay.
and the teacher, you can like get to know them.
She can
so
just go home.
It's like you're more relaxed. That's
Yeah. So you're not relaxed about Amy coming to look at your work?
Pressured.
yeah, that's what we are.
Depression.
Why is it scary?
Because, like, a real scientist that works in the NHS is coming to look at our work, and you're just like, what if it's not perfect? What if it is? Like, what shall we do?
Well, what will you do if she says? What if she says, "Oh, it's not perfect"? Would that bother you?
Yes.
What if she said, "It is good"? How would you feel?
Happy.
So what did you ask Amy when she came to your table?
asked her if she only worked with blood,
Yep.
and she said that she does, but she also investigates other things. And she said that there is more than 32. Yeah, 32 blood types. And there's one called
Bombay.
Yeah, Bombay, and it's really, really rare. And if they needed that blood, then they would have had to ring somebody else, and they would have froze it and sent it to her, and she would have had to defrost it.
Did you learn something new then?
Yes.
By talking to a scientist? Well, how do you feel about the way she talks about your work, the work that you have done?
Proud, kind of, because
Okay.
she's an actual scientist who just 10-year-old children.
What did she say about your work?
She liked it.
Is that why you feel proud about it?
She said she liked that we made a diagram, and she liked how we made a Venn diagram to show where all the samples went.
So did she tell you you have been working scientifically,
Yeah.
like real scientists? And she is a real scientist herself, isn't she?
She said she would do this basically for like a living. She's been doing it for 6 years.
So how does that make you feel about your ability to do things scientifically?
It inspires us in a way.
Inspired. It's made me really interested, and it's made me, because like at first I wasn't really interested in science things, and now I'm really interested when I spoke to them.
Same like me. I thought science was really boring.
But what do you think now, just by talking to her? Does that change your mind?
Fascinating.
She said that it was really, really good, so it made us proud. It made my heart beat so fast when she said it, because it actually made me really proud. And I asked her how was her job like, and she said that it's hard but it's good, and so basically it was really fun.
So you were saying earlier that you were thinking you might want to be a scientist. So has it made you more or less likely to be a scientist?
More.
Why has it made that difference?
Because when she just said that it's really good and that it's hard but it's good, because I'm up for a challenge.
So how did you feel about explaining your work to a visitor from the health service?
I felt a bit shy and nervous and stuff like that to be talking to a proper I don't know how to say it.
Yeah, she's not a nurse, is she? That's why you're pausing.
She said well done and good work and stuff like that.
So how do you feel about that you were shy before, and then when you did show the work to her, she said well done and it was good?
I felt happy and because we thought she wasn't even going to be surprised. We thought it was going to be a bit bad. Yeah.
I felt a lot better about it because she's an actual scientist, and I've always wanted to be a scientist, and because she said that it's good, I feel like I have the right, I don't know the word, but the right things so I can actually be a scientist.
It just gave the children some more context for the work they were doing, so they weren't doing it for the sake of us telling them to do it. They knew that they had someone coming at the end to check their work and someone in the profession, so they knew it was being checked over properly, and they quite enjoyed that.
So you say enjoyed it, but how did it change the way they were working, or the?
I think it just made them work more professionally, because they wanted to work in a way that they thought the person coming in wanted them to work. So they knew that they weren't working in the way that we wanted them to do it. They were being told, and we were trying to think of the viewpoint from Amy, and so they used that terminology of methodology, analysis, and so really up there the vocabulary levels of what they were doing.
Okay, I mean, you're describing a situation where they seem to be working better and harder in the classroom, knowing that she was going to be coming in. As a teacher, as an education professional, how does that make you feel about what this has done for learning?
Yeah, I think the massive thing is the context, so them having that a reason for them to do this. It's not just something we thought up of, it's having that end goal, and I think it's real good for motivation for them to do that.
Oh, it's made a massive difference. It's made a difference not only to the children but to the teaching of it as well. It's made it more exciting and enjoyable for us because there was an end goal. It wasn't just we've got to get here. it was actually somebody is coming in to see what, as a team, like we are creating, and the kind of, we wanted our kids to be excited about it. So we've delivered it in a way that was almost more exciting. So their children then have got on board, and having somebody come in at the end has meant actually the children have throughout been so passionate about it and wanted to work just that little bit harder.
So what do you see? You said passionate. What does that? How does that manifest itself in the classroom?
I would say that the children were more engaged, massively more engaged. The science part of it, science is one of those subjects where it's normally a love-hate relationship. You either love it or you hate it. And I would say that all the children have loved it because it's just been different. They know that actually they've been able to verbalise it, and they knew that at the end they were going to have to present. So the whole way through we've practiced those skills, and it's allowed us to incorporate a lot of different skills. So technology, they've done lots of group work. Obviously this working scientifically is one of the main skills, but then actually to have Amy come in and for the children to show off those skills, because a lot of the time we practice these skills, do it, and then that's it, they never see it again. But actually for the children to practice, and it's almost like that showcase, isn't it, like that show off and that performance at the end has just, it's created a buzz, massive buzz, and the children have loved it.